Morning, everyone. I am just
Good
getting.
morning.
Oh, it's one of those great mornings where everything is 5 minutes behind, but we're getting it going. All right. So, what is an underdog? The underdog is the person who people don't believe in. The thing is we've all been the underdog. We've all been the one that wanted to stretch beyond what we believed was possible. And the people that we called friends, we called family, they didn't believe in our dreams. They didn't believe in our capabilities. But they were wrong. The truth is a person's perception has nothing to do with a person's reality. What a person is actually capable of is a whole different level than what people see. I created this room today because I've watched on Clubhouse for 8 months now, and I've noticed something. What I noticed was the world is tired. It is tired of the fake. It's tired of the hurt. In all these months, I have seen so many people on Clubhouse that have all made the same decision at the same time last year, that enough was enough. It was time to actually do something about all the problems of the world. So I figured it's about time that the underdogs finally came together and started to make a difference. I wanted to come together today and talk about bringing hope. Frankly, the world needs hope now more than it ever has in history. And as connected as we've been, there's no reason that we have been divided as we have been. There's no reason that anyone should be without hope these days. It's unacceptable. So I wanted to come in here today and tell you the truth a little bit about myself. You see, I've lived the underdog. I've lived the underdog like very few have. My story is complicated, but I know what it feels like to be doubted, to have people not see what I know is inside. And I've actually ended up using that as a opportunity instead of something that held me back. Just like I know that everybody has the capability to achieve anything they actually want. Once you understand that everybody in the history books is no different than you and I, it gives you perspective. It gives you the ability to look at the world a little bit differently and see that there's opportunity absolutely everywhere. I run around Clubhouse, and the fact they use the moniker of Shadow is actually kind of funny because it was never meant to be like the unseen. It was never meant to be anything other than a reminder to myself. The reminder is everybody has light and dark inside of them. And no matter how much one side fights, neither can fully win. You may be good, but there will always be that dark. And you may be bad, but there's always good. But the strongest person is the one that finds a balance between the two. The one who is powered by the pain of their past get directed by the light of their future. That person is unstoppable. My past, I come from an actual good family. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. My dad was a high school teacher. But I'm adopted. Now, looking back, I can get Freudian on it and kind of understand that that's why I rebelled. As a kid, I was desperate for approval. And being a desperate kid for approval is not a great way to make friends. But I did find friends. I did find friends I still have. It was about high school time that I started gravitating towards people who were more broken because they were more willing to accept who I was. And these broken situations, coming from a good family, I knew what was right, what was wrong. And I got to see horrible situations. Now, I was an emotional kid. I was a weak kid. And I knew I had to get stronger. I had to find a way to beat that weakness out of me because people needed me. I literally would put myself in situations that scared me. I put myself in situations that hurt me. I put myself in situations that broke me. Because I've come to realize something. The more you break, the stronger you are. The more you try, the stronger you get. I unwittingly started actually building myself, making myself stronger in all facets. And I remember that, unfortunately, that also led to some dark places. I was 15 years old the first time somebody pulled a gun on me. One of my friends from school, her dad had been beating on her. I went to go confront the dad. Dad chased me off with a gun. And I was mad at myself because I failed. I let her down. I was scared again. So I became determined to get stronger. I faced my fears and I kept pushing. I found more situations to be scared so I wouldn't be scared anymore. At 18 years old, I'd basically become a weapon. I built this mentality that I could beat anybody at anything playing their game, not mine. I didn't need to bring you to my field. I'd meet you on yours and dominate. In that world, I got into drugs. I figured out that you can make a lot of money. And I used that money to go save people. You know, I've been on Clubhouse and I've heard all these people talking about human trafficking and everything else that goes on in this world. And none of them know. None of them have seen that world. But I have. I hunted that world. You know, looking back, you can actually see the pattern of life. And God built me to be a fighter. He built me to be somebody who can overcome any situation, who can face any challenge and win. At the time, I couldn't understand why somebody as intelligent as me would make such horrible choices. But it finally all came together. It's because eventually you got to focus on legacy. You have to be able to look at your future and realize that your life is short. Your life feels so long at times, but in reality, you're just a blip on the screen. And you have the opportunity to either leave a legacy or a liability. And there's nothing stopping you. I look around this world, I talk to people, and they keep telling me, well, I can't because of this, or I can't because of that. It's you. It's always you. It's always been you. You're sitting in a prison with no walls. You're in a cage with no bars. What you actually know is possible is way greater than anything you can imagine. So back in that world, I may have not been the greatest, but at the same time, I always fought for what was right. In a world where you couldn't call the cops, you called me. You called me to come rescue you. You called me to come save your friend. You called me to deal with the guy that stole your rent money so your kids were going to be on the street. I was that guy. I dominated. Unfortunately, when you chase monsters, eventually you can become one. I spent a bunch of time locked up, and in 2008, I got out. In 2008, I'd had enough. I said, this time I'm doing it for me. This time I'm going to fight for me. And there's one thing about me is I know myself. I unknowingly did something that absolutely changed my life. It changed my ability to see the world. I remember sitting in a prison cell, crying, trying to understand why somebody as smart as me was so stupid. And I had to know. So I had the time. I took it and I sat in meditation for 6 months straight. I went back over every single memory I have of my life and I twisted it in every conceivable way because I had to learn everything I could about me. I had to learn from every situation I'd ever experienced, from childhood to then. And that gave me the gift of knowing myself. When I got out in 2008, one thing I know about me is when I have responsibilities, I don't let them down. I am loyal to the core. And so when I got out, I ended up getting back together with an old girlfriend. We dated on and off over the course of a decade. And I said, you know what? I'm going to marry this woman. She has an amazing son, and that responsibility will keep my personality in check. You see, we all have to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Well, of everything dumb I've done in my life, ironically, that would actually end up being the greatest mistake I made, but also my greatest blessing. You see, I'd heard some crazy stories about this woman, and over the course of 10 years, I'd never seen it, so I wrote it off. After I ended up marrying her, it was 3 days. 3 days later, things went sideways. I remember getting up that morning and she starts screaming at me, saying I was cheating on her that morning with a girl in another county when I've been in the same room with her all day. Like, I started to laugh. Like, I was like, you're joking, right? Like, what? Like, I went to the bathroom for 10 minutes, climbed out a window, drove 30 minutes away, cheated on you, drove 30 minutes back, and climbed back through the window. Like, I honestly thought she was playing a joke. She wasn't. So, me being me, I said, all right, this is where we're at. Let's sit down and let's logically write up a timeline, and I'll prove to you it's not true unless you refuse to do it. You see, years later, I ended up reading a bunch of psychology books because I had to understand. And there's a rare condition of somebody who is abused as a child that when they become emotionally attached to somebody, their subconscious will rebel against them and convince them they're being victimized in some way. That's what was happening. You see, it wasn't malice what she was doing. She fully believed it. She still does. And couple that with being the only sociopath I've ever met, that makes for a dangerous combination. You know, you never tell God anything. He tells you. My parents were divorced, and I always told God that you can make any marriage work if you work hard enough at it. Well, like I always say, God's got jokes. Because I end up slaving myself out to this woman. I did everything to make that marriage work. She was violent. She was hateful. She stole from me. And come to find out, she was cheating on me with everybody. I can prove 8 guys she slept with in the first month we were married. And when I finally found out, I literally called the guy and asked him. And he told me yes. So I called her up because I was in another county as well. I called her a whore. She hung up on me, and I'd had enough. I said, I'm done. This is the final straw. Well, she's one of these people, if you get mad at her, she'll get twice as mad at you. So she went out and bought a prepaid phone, texted herself a bunch of threats, called the cops, said it was me. 3 days later, calls me up and says, hey, you know that money I've been stealing from you? I've got it. You can come get it. Just don't do anything crazy. Well, I personally thought maybe she just is trying to get back together with me, feels bad for cheating on me. Come to find out there's 6 cop cars waiting for me. Much to my surprise. But it doesn't even stop there. 3 days later, she signs for my bail. I get out. She informs me immediately that if I leave, not only will she pull my bail, she will report me for violating a no contact order. Now, I was the hostage. I kept trying to pull our friends aside and explain the situation, and whenever I would, they would give me these funny looks. I'm like, are you not listening to me? I'm stuck. Freaking help me get out of this. Finally, one day, one of my friends copped up and said, well, you know, she was over here the other day telling us how you've been beating her. You see, she may be incredibly dangerous, but she is wicked smart. She knew that everyone would turn on her unless she got the story out first. She went and told everyone I'd been beating her, which was why I was locked up. So I figured, all right, I've been in worse situations than this. I spent about a month. I finally got her to tell the truth. I got her to give the courts the phone that she used to text herself. They dropped all charges. They kept that no contact order in place for 1 month. Once again, she informed me, if you leave, I will report you. You see, because I paid all her bills. During that month, she got pulled over with me in the passenger seat, my own vehicle. I was sitting there with my shoes off, feet up on the dash, eating a Wendy's Frosty. Arrested for violating a no contact order. Well, this time there was a new prosecutor in the office who is a lady trying to make a name for herself. She gave me 5 years in prison for that. 5 years plus 2 years because my wife had 3 stolen IDs in the car I didn't even know about. But it was my vehicle. No deal, no way out. Now, if you've ever think you've been mad in your life, I promise you, that kind of white hot anger is incredibly powerful. Not only did that happen, she took everything I owned and sold it, forged my name on all of my titles, and ended up running off with a guy in my mom's kindergarten class, who she also did the same thing to. You see, I was not alone. I was only one of more than a dozen guys she's done this to. Come to find out. Sitting in that cell, I wanted revenge more than I've ever wanted to breathe. But the thing about dealing with a sociopath is they are really hard to beat because they will do what you will not. If you have a conscience, they will win. So I sat down and wrote down every conceivable revenge I could come up with. But the only one that played out where I did not end up losing was if I could become successful and let her destroy herself. So I had 5 years to train. I took that 5 years and looked at every single job that I could possibly do. Now I realized I could do something highly specialized or highly dangerous. I could go to the oil fields. I could go to Alaska. But a tattoo artist is a minor celebrity. A tattoo artist is somebody who everybody talks about. Now, I couldn't draw. I have no artistic ability naturally. But I have a will to succeed. People tell me all the time now, they're like, man, I wish I could draw. I wish I could tattoo. Oh, you can. You spend 8 hours a day tactically applying that, I guarantee you can develop any skill you want. I took the career of a tattoo artist, I broke it down to the finite details. I purposely started focusing on portraits because I knew that was the one area of art that a lot of tattoo artists actually avoid. I read everything I could on the industry. I developed all the skills needed. I learned. And I beat at that dream every day for 5 years. When I walked out in 2013, my portfolio was so good. To this day, those pictures hang on my wall, and people still will argue with me that they're drawings or photographs. Every single shop that had an opening offered me a spot. I got to work. I managed to breeze through my apprenticeship in about a year. I ended up moving back to Bellingham. I was working at the only shop that had an opening, but unfortunately, a pretty lady came in with the same skill level as me, and he gave the spot to her. So what do? You beat at a dream for 5 years, and you can't find the job. You make it work. You find a way. There's always a way, no matter what. You can always find a way to succeed. I had no knowledge of business, but guess what? I opened a business. I opened a business and broke it down exactly like I did the industry of tattooing. And I got to work. I tactically broke everything down, just like all the skills of my past I'd done. See, I was never necessarily the strongest, but I was patient and I was willing to wait for my opportunity to strike. I opened in the back of a barbershop. And the entire tattoo community wrote me off. They're like, oh, that little fly by night guy, he'll be gone anytime. Yeah, no, he'll be gone anytime. Yep. Wait, is he getting better? It's okay. He'll be gone anytime. Oh, he's starting to get kind of good. No, he'll be gone anytime. I defied everybody's odds and built the most popular tattoo studio in my county. I have got to travel the world with the cast of Walking Dead and the cast of Arrow. I've got to do things well beyond the possible. All because I don't quit. That's why I talk about the underdog, is because when you burn your door, your exit, you will always find a way. You will make your rent. You will achieve your goal because you do not quit and you do not back down. That's all it takes to succeed in any way, shape, or form, is the ability to never give up, to always find a way and chase anything people call impossible. Now, that's a little bit about my story, and I invited a lot of these whales up here, and here's the thing. I've come to realize something about Clubhouse, and that thing is there's a lot of underdogs still trying, and those who have already succeeded. And I know some of these people on the stage knows what it feels like to be doubted. And I came up here and vulnerably shared a lot of my story because I want to hear some other stories. I want to hear these stories because I know there's somebody listening who needs to hear them. It's not about trauma dumping or anything about that. It's about hope. That is what this world has been missing. That's what this world needs. We all have a past. And the past can power your future, or you can allow it to hold you back. But there's a lot of really successful people that would shock you where they came from. You see, the successful people don't necessarily get born with a silver spoon. They find a way. The only thing that's different between a billionaire and the average person, continued knowledge, and they just believe they could do it enough to try. That's all it takes. So I want to invite anyone else up here who has a story about overcoming that the audience might resonate with, because they need to hear some hope today. They need to hear some hope every day. That's why I want to do these rooms, so that the world can see that we're all the same. We all struggle. We all fight for our futures and the futures of our kids and the futures of everyone. So flash your mics if anybody wants to tell a story or talk about a way that they have overcome. Gotti, I see you down there. I'm going to let you go. This is Shadow. I'm done speaking.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gata, or G for short. I've actually overcome a lot myself, like between being assaulted twice, once by my cousin, once in high school, being harassed at a job, being cyberbullied and sexually cyberbullied behind my back. But I did overcome that. I am now the fundraising director for the future mayor of Houston. I'm only sharing this story to say this. Don't let whatever happened to you make you feel a victim. Become that victor. Know you are the victor, because look where you're at in your life right here, right now, on the stage with these giants, with these big whales, so to speak. And I am following the room. And Shadow, I've missed you, homie. You know, it's the support that we bring to each other. And I only want to say this to say I'm here to support you. I'm still an underdog. I'm still working on coming up. For one day, I do want to become a event planner to work with celebrities and high profile people, and to overcome my fear of gaining the endorsements and sponsorships for the future mayor. How do I do that? A day at a time. If I can do it, I know you can too. This is Gata, and I yield the mic.
Thank you, Gata. And you're absolutely right. We tend to look at big projects as these giant things to accomplish, when in reality, it's just a culmination of a bunch of small things. See, the old phrase, how do you eat an elephant a bite at a time, is absolutely true. I achieved the success I did not because I was able to, jump to any level. I had no artistic ability. I had no genetic success built into me. It took me way longer than it would have taken the average person, but I never stopped growing. I constantly looked at the top, and that's who I was chasing. And I would do it a step at a time. And then when somebody that I admired as a tattoo artist, I felt I was at their level, I looked for the next one and the next one. I was never satisfied. I was never complacent. I just kept trying. You know, it's ironic when you beat at a dream so much that eventually people actually write you off as naturally talented. And all you can do is chuckle, because it's not that I'm naturally talented. I'm just willing to do the work. I was willing to grind at it every day, hyper focus on it, and never give up. And that kind of drive, you can achieve anything. If you go back to my social medias, I watched last year with different eyes. I saw the world destroy itself because you took an entire population, reduced their ability to earn money, confined them to a short space, and then turned them loose on the world. It's the exact same thing as I'd seen people get released. They don't know how to handle the stress of being confined, and it builds up energy when you're not used to it. So when you turn them loose in the world, still stressed because they couldn't work, they lash out because they feel like they had no hope. Now, there were some very, very important things that happened last year, but how they were handled was horrible, ineffective, and really caused no good, when there should have been a good achieved from all that effort. So December 22nd, 3 feet from where I'm standing right now, I'd had enough. I realized that one specific person alone may not be able to change the world, but I can do my part. I look back at my life and all the ways I'd helped people over my lifetime, and I have destroyed my life to save another with very few solid results. The time I affected the most people in my life was ironically when I hyper focused on myself. When I went out and succeeded, all of a sudden I started getting messages from people telling me how much I inspire them, how much watching me from the shadows had changed their life, and they started sending me things that they were doing already because of me. So I wanted to magnify that 1,000-fold. On December 22nd, I set a goal to see a balance in my bank account of $5 million within 5 years. Not because I care about money, but because I wanted the world to see that the impossible was possible. And at the time, that's what I felt was impossible. It's posted on all my social medias. And I flat out say, I'm doing this to just show you that you can do anything. I have no concepts, no major resources, no ideas. But I'm going to beat at this dream exactly like I did the last one, and I will succeed. And I hope you'll succeed along the way. At this point, $5 million seems a little ridiculous, a little too low, and a little too easy. But last year, my grandfather died. He was my hero. You know, there's certain people you meet in this life that are different. He succeeded. He was an iron worker for 40 years. And one day he said, you know what? I got to think about legacy. Now, his personality was something I've never seen before and I've never seen since. He inspired every person he came in contact with, not by doing anything, but by just how he was. He would work harder than anyone with a smile on his face, and he never missed a sunset. He never stopped to admire, never failed to stop and admire a passing deer or a bird on a wire. And nothing was impossible. You see, like, we all are looking at clean energy and everything like that and different possibilities. Him and I built a hydrogen generator for his truck in 1996. All because he had a thought and he's willing to execute. He was always willing to execute. In his spare time, he would sit around and invent things. He invented rollerblades 10 years before they came out. My grandma told him it was a stupid idea. I don't think he ever got over that. So when he thought about legacy, he decided he wanted to buy property. One of his coworkers was like, let's go to Eastern Washington and we can look over there. That's a good place, because he was living in Seattle at the time, and buying a good chunk of property is just as hard back then as it is now. They ended up meeting a couple in Winthrop, Washington. They were just passing through, and the couple invited him to stay the night at their farm, because that's what you did back then. Now, he told him why he was over there. You know, they had a great night, but he never talked anything about their land. A month later, he gets a letter that says, you know what? We really enjoyed your company. Why don't you come back? Came back over, spent a weekend, went home. One day he gets a letter. Says, so we decided to sell you our farm because of who you are. We need you to have it. We know you can't afford it, but we're going to make it work. A 500-acre farm. So he went over. He was at the lawyer's office about to sign papers, and the homeowner gets a phone call. Talks for a minute, gets off, and says, I just got offered double in cash for that property. My grandfather's like, I understand. No hard feelings. The guy says, you don't get it. You need to have this farm. I gave you my word. You're getting it. To give you a little context on the type of person he was, He moved over, started farming with no knowledge of farming. One day there's a knock at the door. There was this whole ironworker crew. He said, "What are you guys doing here?" They said, "We're here to work." He said, I appreciate it, guys, but I can't pay you. I just bought a farm I can't afford, and I'm just getting by." They looked at him and said, "You don't get it. We're never leaving you." They actually hung around for years. They helped him clear cut larger areas of the property. My grandfather was a thinker. So instead of tossing that wood, he actually had it cut. He sectioned off lots along the riverside and built houses. And he became a self-made millionaire in the 70s, back when a millionaire was something. So what do you do with that kind of money back then? And that kind of personality? He opened a boys' ranch for troubled youth. You know, he had closed it before my lifetime. But all growing up, I can still remember those kids come by. Now adults, every year, to say thank you. I was really young, and when a stranger walks up to you and tells you how they would never be them if it wasn't for him, you don't get it. He impacted my life probably the most because of how good he was. And yet, the world never knew his name. He lived quietly. As a matter of fact, we weren't even allowed to have a funeral for him. His final wish was he came quietly into this world, he'd leave quietly. Well, he was wrong. The impact he could have made could have changed the world. Who he was, the world needs. But he left that with me. He left that legacy with me. And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing. Is taking that to the world. So that's my why. That's why I've been working 19 hours a day, every day. And I won't stop. I won't quit. I won't fail.
Hey, Shadow.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much for your share. Thank you very much for sharing things that are very, very important to you um, while teaching me some things, especially reminding some others um, on your journey. And one of the things that I'd love to know is in those moments of hardships, in those moments of crossroads where you had to make a decision that was truly, maybe at that moment was like really, really tough, but you didn't really know what to take. Do I take a right? Do I take a left? Or do I stay still? What made you shift to make a decision to either the right or left? So that, and did you know if it was the right decision?
So we all know what's right and what's wrong. The trick is making sure your perception is clear. The human personality is a unique thing where we are liable to lie to ourselves, because the truth is no matter every interaction you've ever had with somebody where you're like, I know I was right and I know they were wrong. But the truth is everybody is the superhero of their own story. So if your actions do not align with the superhero inside of you, you will actually twist the facts to make sure that that aligns. I've always known what was right. But sometimes I would take a left because somebody needed me. There was a situation that required a level that only I would go to. But when I stopped focusing on everyone else and actually went to succeed for myself, that's when I followed that path. In 2014, I rededicated myself to God on my terms for the first time. I said, all right, God, it's you and me. I've bucked you all my life. I've ran away from you all my life. And you have beat me at every turn. So instead of running away from you, I'm going to work with you. I always say God's got jokes. And my reasoning for that is God will tell you to do things that you don't want to, things that are uncomfortable, but are not only good for you, but good for those around you. But with me, he made the mistake of saying that we're his kids and he wanted a personal relationship. So I follow God, but I'm going to be that petulant kid that stomps his feet all the way across the floor saying, I don't want to put my shoes on as I'm going to put my damn shoes on. So I don't buck God anymore. I lean into him for extra strength. When, I don't know, it's this weird thing. When I made the decision on December 22nd, I thought I was just making a choice to set myself on a path. I have a hyper focused personality. When I grab a hold of a goal or subject, I become overly obsessed. And I will go to extreme lengths to make sure it happens. When you hyper focus on something so much and become so incredibly obsessed, it's really hard not to win and succeed. But this one was different. It felt like not only did I make the right choice, but everything I'd been through had led to that moment to set me up on the road to where I'm going. Like everything in the past all of a sudden made sense. To literally chase a goal to shift the world, you need to know what it means to hurt. You need to know what it means to face the impossible. You need to know what it means to never quit. But if I hadn't been through that, I wouldn't have the strength for what I'm about to do now. I wouldn't have the ability to see the world clearly because I've been in all walks of life. I've lived in $1 million homes. I've lived on the streets. I've seen the horrors of the world, and I've seen things that will make you melt for the pure goodness that's out there. And what that's given me is perspective. I don't see things as bad. I just see things that are. I hear all the time now, like, the world's so bad, and people sit around and just perpetuate that hate. But if you really hate something, you have the power to do your part. You have the power to make the change. Doesn't matter where it's at in the world or anything like that. Yeah, it may be harder for you to, but you still can. So we really need to stop sitting around and just make the difference. We have only control of one thing in this life, and that's ourselves. You have the choice to make a difference, or you have the choice to sit around and watch it. But ain't nobody going to come and do it for you. Ain't nobody going to hand you your dreams. I promise God will block you from any free passes, because guess what? If you get a free pass to your dream, it has no value. It was unearned. That's why you hear people who win the lottery and all of a sudden 3 years later they're broke. Like, how'd you burn through $100 million? Because it had no value. But when you earn something, it means something. God will literally block you from the easy path. He'll make you earn it, but only because he wants you to keep it. He wants you to treasure it, to give it value, to give you the skills for the next step. You see, we go through our lives and we build skills that all transfer. We all have abilities that we don't even think about. When you do one thing and achieve it, you can use the skills from that, I guarantee, for something else as well. It's amazing looking at the world, just the way things work. We're so broken, yet it's the only system we got. Somehow it functions. So I came in here today, and I'm going to be wrapping up this room soon, but I wanted to come in and basically tell my story today because I wanted to lead by example. I'm going to be running these rooms for the next few days. And if you have a story, I want to invite you to come up and tell the world. If you have a goal, I want you to come up and tell the world, because if you really want to succeed, if you know what it means to be an underdog, then you know you have what it takes. And we're here to help. The Whales Group is a group of people who believe in others, believe in helping others, and just want to see things be made better. So if you're not following the club at the top, I highly suggest you do, because I promise you, these people are people who care. They are people who are willing to actually give their time, their energy, to help a stranger succeed. That's why I joined the Whales, because like-minded people. If you'd like to share your story later this week, I challenge you to DM me. If you want to see more good people who are willing to give and find hope in this world, there's a Landing Big Whales club at the top of the room. Join in, listen, look, watch, and see, because anybody can talk about anything. What do their actions say? And me, not only do I want everyone to succeed, I want to see everyone's message reach the world. See, I've been on this app now for 9 months. And I came on here with my goal, and I saw opportunity. I have spent between $20,000 and $30,000 on hardware because of this app. And between me and somebody else who I just see popped in the room, we've been sitting back, studying, learning. And between the two of us, we actually know the app more than anybody, I think. Isn't that right, Amber?
I think that we have a very, very good understanding of the underbelly and more, lots more, very deep and very deep.
You see, we come on Clubhouse and we interact and we talk and we give value where we can, but above that, we're always working in the background. We're always researching. I have books of data. I have umpteen files of statistics because I have the will to succeed. We can actually teach you how to interact with Clubhouse, understand Clubhouse like no other, as well as every other social audio platform, because we're hungry. We want to win. And we're going to be actually teaching some of it secretly here soon. So I suggest if you want to actually learn what's behind the curtain in Oz, just message her or I winning, and we'll let you know when we're ready to present this. But I promise you, we want you to succeed. At the end of the day, I don't want to reach the top ever alone. I want to reach the top with all the underdogs, all the other people out there chasing dreams beyond themselves. I want to see a lot of legacies left this lifetime. And nothing would make me happier than knowing that I got to continue along on that journey with these people, with you. So if you want to share your story here, we're going to be wrapping up. I just want to invite everyone to message me that wants to tell their story. We will actually schedule your time to bring you in, interview you. So let your pain of your past and your story help the next person that gets to hear it. Because the greatest way to give hope to somebody is through shared experience. Don't let the next person down. Each one teach one. And we can all rise together. And that's how you see a difference in this world. So anybody else have any closing remarks before I close it up? I'm going to open the floor.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Shadow, for sharing, man. That was powerful and great to hear a little bit of your backstory and learn a little bit about where you come from and what you've been through to get here. So really do appreciate I'll call it the courage. I don't know that you'll take the compliment, but I'm going to call it courage to come up here and say some things that a lot of us would be, I think, would have trouble admitting. So power to you, brother.
Thank you. And I get it. I get why people struggle to admit things. But if you can't share your story, the next person can't feel hope. And so I'll always take the opportunity to at least share, even if it is uncomfortable, because I'm not trying to trauma dump. I'm just trying to show people that you have the ability to succeed. And if I can make somebody feel like they have a shot at achieving the impossible, then I've done my job for the day. So thank you for that, Jay. Anybody else want to say anything before I wrap this room up?
Shadow, it's Jackie. I'd just like to say that you always inspired me, and now I ever admire you so much. Thank you for your share. Thank you for your openness. You are someone very, very special. Thank you for being part of this group. This is Jackie handing back the mic.
Thank you, Jackie. And you can thank you can thank the people who gave me the goodness in their lives, because that's what's made me what I am. If it wasn't for my mom, my grandfathers, I have a feeling things would have been really bad. They've always been a guiding light. They always taught me what was good and what was right. My mom cheated. She basically bought her way into heaven dealing with my butt. But today I get to be her greatest I told you so to everybody else, because she never gave up on me. She always knew I would get out of it, and I did. All right, everybody. So I'm going to wrap up this room. I really appreciate y'all.
Before you wrap up, Shadow, you also don't give up on anybody, and you see the good in everything as well. So
You are correct.
Just to let you know, we all see you, and I love you.
I love you too, Amber. We all do.
I love you too, Shadow. Thank you for sharing your story. And you know what? No, thank you for sharing your whole story. I'm like so proud of you, what you've accomplished and what you've been through. And I look up to you because for me, I don't know if I could have made it through and gone through your journey and make it, but that is just awesome. So thank you for sharing. But I love you.
I love you too, Ha. And honestly,
Shadow,
yep.
I just want to personally say thank you for your story, because your story changes everything. And I really appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And thank you all the mods for coming in here today and supporting. We're going to run a couple more rooms this week, but I just wanted to lead by example to see anybody else wanted to share their story, because that's how the world changes. That's why I've been building what I've been building. That's why I focused on omnipresent marketing, is not because of money, but because I want everyone's story to be able to be heard. Instead of being blocked by algorithms and, friend accounts, I just wanted to maximize all that to win. As a matter of fact, you want to talk about impossible? My full plan, I'll actually be a direct threat to Facebook within 10 years.
Less.
So hold my beer and see what happens when you buck my goals. I don't quit. I never give up, and I will make any personal sacrifices I need to, any bad habits. I will change whatever needs to change about me, because I know to do what's never been done, you must become what's never been. And I will do that.
Shadow, I just want to thank you so much, because telling your story, this is Shireen, telling your story is really going to inspire someone. And I always tell people that your story is not complete, but someone else has lived it. And so there's so many lessons in your story. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable to share it with us today. I'm Shireen in the Orange, and I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Shireen. And that's the only reason I come out and tell it. There's a difference between telling your story and trauma dumping. And the difference between the two is, are you still living it, or are you speaking it for the next person? Now, it's fine to want to talk through a problem, and that's great. But when you have an ending to that chapter, then the next person can feel like they made it, so can I. I made it. I made it out of basically an animalistic state, and I succeeded. So I tell the story so that even people with nothing, you see, 2013, I walked out of prison with literally the clothes on my back and a portfolio. That's all I had. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. This year, I think I made $250,000. I mean, I charge $170 an hour now, and I'm booked out for months. And people actually write me off as naturally talented. You see, once you get so good at something that people write you off as naturally talented, then you know you succeeded. Because I don't have natural talent. Not in this field, anyways. My natural talent is actually problem solving and perception. There's not a concept or world problem or innovation that you can't hand me a thought and I can't problem solve it. I learned from my grandfather. He would sit around and invent things all day long. I have the same type of mind where I'm able to just, oh, this is where we're at. How do we do it? Think outside the box. So those are my talents. I stepped into a business with 0 business knowledge. I had to think outside the box. I had to make every single mistake humanly possible. But I went from a hobbit hole closet room in the back of a barbershop to a 1,700 square foot shop. It's the top rated shop in my county. I have artists from around the world that message me and just to tell me how much they appreciate my work and how much they want to learn from me when I was one that everyone wrote off. So you can succeed. I'm going to wrap this room up now. So I really appreciate everybody coming. I'm going to get my day started, and I hope you all have a blessed day. I will see you around the halls of Clubhouse.
Have a great day, Shadow.
Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye, Shadow.
Joy. Take care, everyone.
You know, it's funny. I only woke up 10 minutes before that room. I overslept. No.